Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Mobility Matters. I'm your host, Executive Director of the Citizens Independent Transportation Trust, Javier Betancourt. I should have started off with my name. I apologize. We are the quasi-independent agency of Miami-Dade County charged with overseeing your half-penny sales tax for transportation and implementation of the People's Transportation Plan. You can learn all about us at www.miamidade.gov/CITT. So I'm really excited to have two amazing guests here today to talk about mobility and transportation and all the things going on in District 1. That's District 1 of the County Commission, and we'll let them describe what that commission district covers. So the first guest is Oliver Gilbert. He is currently the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, also vice chair of the Transportation Planning Organization, and finally, former mayor of the great city of Miami Gardens. Welcome to the program.
Thank you all for having me.
Of course. My other guest is Miguel Murphy. So Miguel is a member of the Citizens Independent Transportation Trust, representing District 1, appointed by Chairman Gilbert. And Miguel is also an employee of Miami-Dade College, where he is the executive director for student engagement and community partnerships. Did I get that right?
You did. Thank you for having us this morning.
No, thank you. And thank you for arriving on time. I know you're coming from the northern end of the country, the county. It feels like the country
sometimes. Country away. It's country away. I'm coming from Boston. His rap name is Eminem.
Eminem. Okay, we have a new nickname for him. I like that. And you're the OG.
I'm the OG.
Okay.
The real OG.
Man, we could just stop right there.
Yeah, there it is.
So, Mr. Chairman, we'll start with you. So, tell me about. Let's start with District 1, right, and then we can go kind of countywide. Tell me about the district. What are some of the cities there?
There are only two cities in District 1. It's Opa-locka and Miami Gardens. I'm the former mayor of Miami Gardens.
Right.
If you had to say the major areas, Opa-locka, Miami Gardens, the Country Club of Miami, and California Club. And so we go all the way west, almost to a mile, just a mile. We stop around a mile east of I-75. And then we go all the way east to I-95. Okay. And so it's from 135th Street around to County Line Road. And so it's an extraordinary district. Born and raised, that's been my home district my entire life. And it really captures the diversity of Miami-Dade County. I represent large pockets of senior citizens and large pockets of young people. Mm-hmm. I represent people from every socioeconomic status, every racial and demographic background. Everything that you want, that you think about in Miami-Dade County is in District 1. And so it's something that, and it's, Miami Gardens is a large part of the district.
Right.
And so I do a lot of work with them. I do a lot of work with my cities. And then we try to provide the municipal services outside of that.
And of course, there's a facility within your district that is beloved in our community, the Hard Rock Stadium, right?
Stadium, yeah. Home of the Miami Dolphins. I tell people all the time when I'm traveling, they say, so you were a mayor, where's Miami Gardens? I say, well, I'm the mayor of the Miami Dolphins. Yeah, no, so you think about where the Super Bowls are being played, I'm the guy who was the mayor when we brought the Super Bowls to be played there. Yeah. And so they're interesting and good community partners because they're the largest employer in Miami Gardens, but also they're the largest taxpayer. And one of the things I like to talk about all the time when I talk about the stadium, people talk about events at the stadium. Stadiums aren't taxed like your houses are taxed. Like stadiums are taxed based on their usage. So over the years, their taxes have gone up, not because the tax rate changed, because they used it more. Well, that money goes into providing programs for seniors, programs for kids, because while they're paying into the general fund, they don't really require any of that type of servicing. They don't require special policing. Their special policing they have to pay for.
Right.
And so those things, we find good ways to make good decisions and be good partners with each other.
And it's really become a year-round destination. So beyond the Dolphins, obviously the Hurricanes, go Canes. They're doing really well this year. Let's keep that up. But also Formula One. You have the jazz concert. You have the tennis. I mean, it's year-round.
Jazz concert, Formula One, tennis. We just did a pickleball tournament out there. Jazz in the Gardens, Rolling Loud. It really, this weekend, Taylor Swift.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Taylor Swift will be there for 3 days, sold out.
Batten down the hatches.
Yeah, it's we're about to be swift. Yes. So it's an interesting dynamic because it brings people, and it's something that Miami Gardens has been able to use to help develop. Sure. Because when I became mayor of Miami Gardens, there wasn't a lot of development there, and I said, well, Miami Beach has water. They have a beach, so they develop around a beach. Mm-hmm. Miami Gardens has a stadium. We need to develop around a stadium.
Yeah.
We need to create things and access points and things for people to do and entertain themselves and go eat and shop and make money as entrepreneurs around the stadium. You use what you have to actually help develop communities.
Excellent. Another major institution in the district, of course, is Miami-Dade College North Campus. And then, of course, you live there, Miguel. So tell us more about those.
Absolutely. Thank you. So lifelong resident of Miami Gardens. I've had the good fortune to serve on one of the advisory boards. That's where I met Commissioner and Chair Gilbert some decades ago, and, programming within the community. And so just being able to be a resident and actually do programming for our community and get the wider community to be involved has been truly, I'm really grateful for that. Now, Miami-Dade College, I've been there for, I want to say, almost 26 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe.
Hard to
Look like
believe.
such a young guy.
Yeah. Wow.
20 full-time years, and I've had the full experience of being a student, working in admissions, student affairs, teaching, advising. I currently serve as the executive director of student affairs and student engagement and community partnerships. But just having the privilege to really work with our students to see their growth through and through. And so yesterday I was riding the Metro Mover, and one of my former students, she's like, "I remember you from somewhere." I'm like, "Remind me of your name," and I remember her last name. So it doesn't matter where I go in the community. Miami-Dade College and Miami Gardens have sort of given me the opportunity to really connect with some thousands of individuals, all walks of life, whether it's at the airport, the cruise. I've been on a cruise a couple times with my family, and my students are right there to check me in, or TSA, or it does Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, doesn't matter where.
Yeah.
Definitely, the college has given me that ability to connect with.
So you and your students were drinking together on the cruise, you're saying?
Well, they checked me in.
Is that what you're saying? I mean,
Hey, what happens on a cruise
what stays on the cruise. All right.
Not in the age of social media.
Yeah,
so much,
no,
unfortunately. But it really is such an indispensable institution in our community. I mean, I don't want to even imagine Miami-Dade County without Miami-Dade College. And everyone has some kind of connection.
It's hard
to
to
it.
do that.
2.5 million alumni.
Still the largest institution of higher ed in the country?
Community college.
And the best, right?
And the best. And we're number 4. And we were just ranked recently top 4 in the South.
That's great.
Also for veterans, social mobility, and you name it. The accolades have continued to pile up.
And we'll get into more in that. In a few weeks, we're going to have the president of Miami-Dade College, Madeline Pumariega, on the show. So we're looking forward to having her. She's fantastic. So a little more about District 1, but now let's focus on the mobility aspect. So tell us about, I know you were the mayor of Miami Gardens. Miami Gardens has a great trolley system. So some of the things that the city is doing or were done under your administration to really help to connect Miami Gardens internally and connect it to the larger transit system. And then, what are some of the ongoing challenges and initiatives that are underway in the district?
Well, as a city councilman, I brought the item that created the Miami Gardens Express, the trolley system, and we expanded it when I became mayor of Miami Gardens. The idea was that transit should take you along corridors, but the first and last mile connections need to be done with things like trolleys and other transit options. We can't take, metro rails or huge buses down every neighborhood, but we know that there's some frequent stops. People are going to go to the community center in Miami Gardens, the shopping plaza on 27th Avenue now that replaced the flea market. They're going to go there. They're going to go to the senior center on 183rd Street and 12th Avenue. They're going to go to the Walmart. They're going to go to the public. So if we know that these things exist and we know where the people are and we know where they need to go, then we can design a trolley system to actually take them there. And even if they're using Miami-Dade County Transit, we can connect it so that when they get off of transit, now all they have to do is walk right here a couple of steps away, and you can wait for the trolley to take you that first and last mile.
Fare free trolley.
Yes, it's free. It is free. And so that's one of the things that we actually use our CITT dollars for in Miami Gardens. Right. And so it's one of the things when I was a council person, I said, hey, listen, I've seen some other cities do this. And I remember telling the manager, he was like, yeah, well, I don't know if that would work here. I said, well, it's going to work. It's going to work. So we're going to do it. And we did it, and it's been a blessing.
Yeah.
The ridership continues to increase, and so I'm happy about that.
And so to get a rider's perspective on that, I know, Member Murphy, that you ride the system regularly. So walk us through kind of your daily routine. You know, how do you commute to work from District 1? What are some of the services you use?
Absolutely. So first to the trolley, my grandmother loves it, and so do I. I'm able to use it and leverage it to, get to just community events, whether it's at the Betty T or to a council meeting from my residence. But my day-to-day, I'm fortunate to have a 95 Express stop. And so I was sharing earlier that I have a ride-in family now. Miss Claudette, Courtney, Sandra, and Miss Loretta. So I want to shout them out. But every morning we get on that bus, 95 Express. It takes about, I want to say 30 minutes to get downtown.
Great.
Yes.
And much faster than
much
driving.
faster in the afternoon.
And cheaper.
It's an option. When I look at the tolls, it says $11.50 and we're on that express bus. I'm like, it's really, really cost efficient. I see my students on there. I have students who commute tri-county.
Right.
And they use the Golden Glades interchange. So I see a lot of my colleagues leveraging the park and ride at Golden Glades as an option. Tri-Rail is also there.
Right.
I use that as an option as well. You get a discount if you have that monthly pass. So I teach my students also to, hey, if you want to get from campus A to campus B, you have this as an option. Right. Whether you're at the North Campus and you can get on the 32, go to the Opa-lawka station in the district, and now there's a connector from Metro Rail transfer to downtown.
Right.
And that's 20 minutes.
And there's even, I think, an express. Right?
And an express.
That goes directly. So
exactly. 6:30, 4 stops, similar to Brightline. Yeah. There are many options now to get from District 1 to downtown. So, for me, I tell my, family at work that I should have been doing this maybe like 10, 15 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because I'm able to save energy. I'm able to do more. I'm able to reflect more.
Yeah. They're all Wi-Fi enabled, right? You could do work on the trains and on the
absolutely.
buses.
All the buses have Wi-Fi. The trains have Wi-Fi. I'm able to, connect remotely if needed. I'm able to focus, as opposed to driving where a text message comes in. That's dangerous, right? Yeah. So I'm able to actually be more responsive and be more present in my purpose and what I do.
And by the way, you're doing good things for the environment, right? I mean, I don't think that's people's primary purpose. You just want to get to where you're going, but it does have that added benefit as well. Yeah.
Look, Miami-Dade County transit system, our buses specifically, I forget the numbers, some ungodly high number, between 500, 700,000 people, riders a day. We have more people who ride our buses than most of the people counties have people. That's how significant it is. That's how significantly we move people from place to opportunity every day. So we don't think about transit in this terms, but I was a kid who used transit to get my law degree from the University of Miami. There are kids who are doing the same thing now with Miami-Dade College, FIU, Miami. Public schools, that's what's happening. That is what transit does. It moves you from place to opportunity. Right. And so we do an extraordinarily big thing every day. And sometimes I think what's lost on folks is the complexity of it. It's not easy. It's not easy sequencing. It's not easy making sure we have the exact mix of people on buses, on routes, and people. It's not easy. But it's something that we're trying our best to perfect right now. And so our the chairperson of the transit committee is Eileen Higginson. She works hard on that stuff, on the mechanics of it, and work hard on the policy of it. Because we need to get into practice of talking about it differently, speaking about transit and transportation and public transit and rapid mass transit differently. Far too often I see that we talk about it in terms of, how much it's going to cost us, not in terms of how much it's costing us not to do it. What's the congestion cost? I mean, I know the answer is $12 billion a year for the Tri-County area. That's the congestion cost, one of the highest in the country. That means between gas and time, we don't realize it. But not having a more robust rapid mass transit system is actually a tax on us right now. And so everything we do, from that I've done when I was as the chairman, and before that as chairman of TPO, and now vice chair of TPO, is aimed at enhancing and encouraging that conversation, because we have to find ways to fix it. Whenever someone tells me, well, we can't do it, I said, well, then what's your plan? Your plan can't be to sit in congestion.
Right.
Your plan can't be to watch housing prices continue to increase, to watch time and traffic continue to increase, with the population increasing, and with our productivity going down, and do nothing. That can't be your plan. Your plan can't be to build more roads, because we're built out.
Right.
So you can't build more roads. We can't build roads to the extent that it would actually relieve congestion in a major way. And so we need to, and we might be the only place in Florida, definitely the only place, if you count us, Broward and Palm Beach, the Southeast Corridor, that has this problem, because in other parts of Florida, it's a little different. They have more space than they have people.
Right.
We have more people than we have space. And so finding ways to accommodate that and still help Miami-Dade County develop into what I believe will be the best urbanized area in this hemisphere. We're gonna redefine what diversity looks like. We're gonna redefine what resilience looks like. We're gonna redefine pathways of mobility with institutions like Miami-Dade College, institutions like FIU and Florida Memorial and St. Thomas and Barry. We're gonna redefine those things, but by providing folks an access to get to opportunity easier. So we gotta do that.
Yeah, it's all a three-legged stool, right? So you have transit and transportation, you have economic development, and you have land use. And all those three things kind of influence each other. So we have to think kind of globally about those issues. And I know you have a great initiative underway called Vision Council, or 3030 Vision Council, which I'll allow you to talk about in a second. But let's go to Miguel real quick. So Miguel, any thoughts on what the chairman said and thinking about transit, not just in terms of moving people, but how important it is to our development, our housing stock, and economic development opportunities?
Absolutely. Well, what comes to mind first is, I know it takes me 35 minutes on the 95 Express, but how great would it be to have, from the government center all the way up to Miami Gardens, the ability to, a one-seat ride. So just the future of transit in that context for District 1, it would eliminate, multi-transfer points,
right,
to be able to get to those opportunities and eliminate just time where you can actually use that time to do something else. So I know, rapid mass transit was recently on the ballot, very favorable. I definitely am in support, right? To see just
you
the
and
future.
80% of the county.
80% of the county. It's interesting. We put it on there. I put it on there because there was this idea when I started talking to folks, other leaders, and they were like, well, transit, FMS transit isn't popular. It isn't popular. I was like, listen, I don't know who y'all are talking to, but I see the people I'm going to be talking to who are stuck in traffic just like me. So I know that it is popular. I know that we've had so many transplants from other places and they're coming from places where rapid mass transit is the default and not the exception.
Right.
And so we sometimes we get lost in how young we are as a county. We're not particularly old. So that there are more developed urbanized areas all over the country. We can learn from the things they've done and to learn from the things they didn't do. So you said something a second ago. It's interesting because you did something that folks refuse to do. You connected land use, transportation, economic development. That stuff connects with housing cost, the affordability of housing, resilience. We have these siloed conversations all the time where we're going to talk about resilience, and someone's number one issue, all they care about is resilience. Okay, that's resilience. It's just their thing. Somebody else, all they care about is rapid mass transit. Somebody else, well, you know what? We don't do a good enough job in housing, and this needs to be affordable. People can't afford to live here. And someone else, well, you know what? We don't have businesses in our area that we want to use. All of those things are actually connected.
Yeah.
They're not independent of each other. And so sometimes I think that we believe that the conversation is too big to have with the public, but it's not. When you just talk about it in very simple terms, hey, you know what? If we had rapid mass transit, we could build density along these corridors.
Right.
It's the first day of economics. You learn supply and demand. If you increase the supply to surpass the demand, you bring down the prices. That's the affordability of housing, and not just affordable housing as a government program or a subsidy. We have to do things like that, good policy. And when I talked about 30 for 30 in the Vision Council, those are the things that we need to talk about. You add in stuff like workforce training, the future use of industry, how industries are going to look, how they're going to behave, how we transition from not just a basically tourism economy to something that's bigger and better, how we've become trade and logistics headquarters for Caribbean and South and Central America right here. We're the two busiest ports in the state. Mm-hmm. The airport and the seaport are in Miami-Dade County. The airport is the #1 economic engine in the entire state of Florida. That means we have more of an impact than Disney World. That's what comes through our airport every day. That's the complexity of the operations of the county. But having ways to actually talk about those, bring people from around the county to have a conversation and say, hey, listen, I know you're doing great things in Miami-Dade College because they're brilliant. FIU's doing great things. UM's doing great things. This bank over here, they're doing some great things, some loan programs. But how do we actually connect it? I don't need redundancy of programs. I don't need redundancy of efforts. I think if we all start to have the conversation and decide this is where we want to go, this is how we want to look in 30 years, not just from a county perspective, but from a community perspective. This is how we want things to behave. This is how we want opportunities to be available and presented for our children. This is our plan. And we don't have to do everything at once, but once we set that plan, let's incrementally move towards it. This idea that we're going to have instant success, we're not going to have instant success. Everything's going to take a long time and everything's going to take money. But you can finance the future if you're especially if you're certain of the outcomes. You can finance the future. When I talk about rapid mass transit, it's the one thing that allows us to affect every other thing. Right. We can affect housing prices with rapid mass transit. We can affect economic development with rapid mass transit. We can affect, obviously, transit with transit. We can affect resiliency with transit, because every building that goes up that provides families a place to live also is going to be on our water and sewer line, and it ain't going to be a septic tank. The septic tank is the #1 contributor to deterioration in Biscayne Bay. And you get people out of their cars. Yeah, it's better for the carbon footprint, right? It's all interrelated. We can affect those things, but we have to be willing to actually have that larger conversation. Don't be afraid of the conversation. People get it. When we start running the transit initiative, because people told me it wasn't popular, I said, well, I'm just going to start talking about it all over the county. I'm going to run some commercials. I'm going to send out some mail. We're going to see how popular it's not. I'm going to tell them how I see this. This is how I see this. And it turns out they agree because they understand it. They understand it. So we need to find ways as a community to continue to move that forward. 30 for 30 is one aspect, but I tell people, listen, everybody needs to be an ambassador of this idea that the status quo is unacceptable. So I don't know that I'm right about everything, but my one question whenever somebody's debating me on any issue, I will always ask, what's your plan? Mm-hmm. If you don't like my plan, what's your plan? If your plan is doing the same thing, well, we know your plan's not an option now. Everybody has to have a plan. Everybody should come to the table with ideas. And we might land someplace where we didn't think we were going to land there, but we won't be staying where we are. This isn't going to be acceptable. It's bad now. It's going to get worse. Housing will not become more affordable if we don't do anything. Transit won't become better if we don't do anything. Congestion won't just magically disappear. Like what's that commercial when we were kids? It's magically delicious. Yeah, it won't magically disappear. It will not magically disappear. Yeah, it'll get worse. Yeah, of course. So if we know that, then why not do something? Mm-hmm. And waiting just makes it more expensive. Look, the North Corridor alone, we're still working on the North Corridor to come down 27th Avenue. Elevated heavy rail, we were looking at maybe between $400 and $600 million 30 years ago. Now we're looking north of $1.2 billion. We're looking north just to build it. Just to build it. Just to build. Then you got to operate and maintain it. We got to operate and maintain it. So we know that the expense is not going to get cheaper. Concrete isn't going to get cheaper. You know, the value of the land isn't going to get cheaper if we have to eminent domain around it. Nothing's going to get cheaper. So waiting doesn't seem to be an option for any of these things. It seems like we have to go now.
And I'm happy to say that I think all the stars are aligning. You know, it used to be in the past that people disagreed on this stuff. I don't see people disagreeing on the need for transit. Not just the general public, 80% approval, but even your colleagues on the commission, at the TPO, all the organizations, everyone seems to be aligned in wanting to get this done. It's just a matter of how, right?
Yeah.
So how do we get this done? So as a member of the CITT, Member Murphy, what is your role in all this and helping to fund some of these initiatives?
You know, I wanted to also add, you know, just from my lived experience, right in the 27 and the 77, up to last night, the 27. And, you know, I was at a function with some students last night too, and they're like, Mr. Murphy, you should ride my route. And I'm like, I got you. But when we talk about density, you know, there's some routes, there's not the density, but we definitely have density in District 1. So, you know, the future of, you know, mass rapid transit definitely, I think, would ease, you know, certain routes and some of the tensions that I see on like buses that do have heavy usage and such. But, you know, as a board member, trust member on the CITT, definitely, right, the role is to ensure that those funds are appropriated to, you know, advance transit for the future. And so myself, along with my colleagues, the North Corridor have definitely been brought up since my tenure, short but long. And so there is hope. And, you know, I look forward to just seeing what is to be, you know, the North Corridor finally. And hopefully I am able to see that.
And I know we've heard from FDOT on their plans for the North Corridor, and it seems like they're making progress. What's the latest?
We do a lot. We do a lot of work with Stacey Miller, our district secretary, and recently I've been talking to her folks in Tallahassee. Also, we have a meeting upcoming with them. They're taking the lead on the planning and doing the environmental studies that we need to actually do, like the NEPA studies and all that stuff. So they're doing that.
It's a process. People don't understand how complicated it is.
It's a long process. It's just a long process. And so because we can't just do it by ourselves. Right. And so we have to have state partners. We have to have federal partners. That means we have to engage in the federal process. And right now, when we talk about the funding, I think our performer contemplates 50% for the federal government, 25% the state, 25% the local government. And
we're on board.
That's what we have to do. And so, but no, the state's been helpful. I think part of the issue also is that when I ask folks to think about it, don't just think about us here. Look, we need to start asking questions of state legislators who are from Miami-Dade County when they're going to Tallahassee and voting on transportation budgets that don't include our priorities. The state for a long time has had a priority of road building. I'm not against road building at all. Right. I think in most places in Florida, I think it is probably the most appropriate thing, because to operate a rapid mass transit system, you need a really, really, really concentration of people. I mean, it's always going to have to be subsidized by the government. It's never going to break even. You know, fare box recovery isn't even anywhere in the country except one strip in Las Vegas. It's the only place. So it's always going to be subsidized, but it's an investment because people get to go to work, people get to go to school. You get to help the environment. It's investment. Okay. But we from our state partners, we're going to need their policy. For the rest of the state, it can be whatever they want. But because we don't have the capacity to build out of congestion with roads, we're going to need their help with rapid mass transit. And so we need the full attention of the state in that effort. I'm not saying we don't do the stuff that we're doing right now. We don't resurface our roads. Do all that stuff. And where we can build interchanges to actually better design.
Golden Glades.
Yeah, do it. I was supportive of that. Yeah. You know, I'm happy we're doing it. The TPO was supportive of that. I'm happy we're doing it. But understand that that's not our future. Right. That's just not our future. And so we need to make sure policymakers at every level understand that without regard to party, without regard to where you stand on any social issues, without regard to any of these things, this issue should not divide us. Because when I walk outside, if we just walked to Sunset Drive there and knocked on the window of each of those drivers and say, hey, are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? Are you independent? You'll find that we're all stuck in traffic together.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're
Common denominator, Miami. Everybody.
Black, white, Hispanic, Jewish, Asian,
issue.
Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, you are stuck at this light. You're stuck in traffic.
Yeah.
And so because it affects all of us in that way, because the affordability of housing affects all of us in that way, because having a resilient community affects all of us in that way. We don't have to worry. We should never have to have a partisan conversation about rapid mass transit for anybody who gets a vote from Miami-Dade County.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a vote from a resident in Miami-Dade County, your default position is no. But how are we advancing transit this year in the transportation in the FDOT budget for Miami-Dade County? That has to be our default.
Right.
And so we need that because we need their help.
And it's also an issue of fairness and equity, right? We're a donor county to the state. We should get the bulk of those funds back and in areas that we need. So if we can't expand roadways, then we deserve to have those investments in transit.
And listen, I am, and I don't. If for any state folks that are listening, I love y'all. but also, listen, I don't mind that we're a donor county,
right? Because
Miami-Dade County, every New York City, New York, most of New York is actually rural and agricultural.
Mm-hmm.
New York City is an engine. Miami-Dade County, Southeast Florida, we're an engine. The strong shall bear the infirmities of the weak. I want us to do our part to help provide quality education, quality roads, all the things from every place else in the county also. I just don't want us to be neglected for our needs. So I'll never complain about the money we send you all. But when we come, we say this is what we need. This is why we need it. And this is how we plan on actually continuing to be this donor county, continuing to be the engine that pushes this state forward. And I think we're the best state in the country. But Miami-Dade County is a big part of that. And sometimes those efforts don't necessarily go acknowledged. And so you'll see sometimes like the tug of war between the people in other parts of the state. They look at us and they don't really like us. And they
don't understand us.
Yeah, they don't understand us. And if you took Miami-Dade County out of Florida, they'd be Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'd be North Dakota.
Yeah.
There'd be someplace with not a lot of people, and they wouldn't have the resources that we bring to the state. And so I'm always willing, and I always want us to do our part because I believe not just here in Miami-Dade County, but in this state, in this country, we are in it together.
Right.
I'm not going to ever say we have more money, and so no. We're going to put our money in a pot and it's going to help your kids. You should put your money in a pot and it's going to help ours. And that ought to be the message that actually transcends partisanship, religion. That's our message.
Yeah, you got to take care of the goose that lays that golden egg, right?
Yeah.
So we're covering every subject. I love this. But on the subject of funding, let's take that a step further. So one thing we do know is that we don't have enough funding to complete the SMART plan, to complete all the transportation projects that are critically necessary. The referendum that was passed was fantastic. 80% support, but it was a straw ballot, right? It didn't really, touch on funding. Is that the next step now to go back to the public, or to find other funding sources so that we can complete these projects?
All of the above, and we've done some stuff already. When you look at how we've actually changed how we view, like for instance, our funding of CRAs in the future. And if you look at, we've added a bunch of money to the pro forma just because we anticipate having to bring the SMART plan on. So
the TIF district, everything
TIF districts, all those things. So we've done it. The next step is, I know you all remember the RTZ that was a fight for a year and a half, and we fought over it, and some cities didn't want it. But our idea that rapid mass transit and the corridors and the use of that land around those things mattered. Part of the reason it matters is because all of that RTZ area goes into, we get the increment of that, the value of that property to actually put back into rapid mass transit. So Steve Bobo actually did that when he was a commissioner. I did the second half. He did that first half. Me increasing the value of that property and making it more developable for higher uses and more higher FAR and more density actually allows us to get more money to put in transit. That's going to be a part of it. But I think ultimately we will have to have a talk with the public about how we actually fund this. And so when you said earlier that all of my colleagues, they seem to be on board. I think they are on board, but it's not. Look, if you want an omelet, you got to crack an egg. What's that movie that said everybody want to go heaven, nobody want to die? Nobody want. Yeah. At some point,
Commissioner Moss liked to say.
Yeah. Everybody want to go heaven. So it's at some point we have to talk about things like the half penny. At some point we have to talk about things like general obligation bonds. At some point we have to do it, and it's not an abnormal conversation. All of the great things that you think about, like when people talk about, I love going to Tropical Park. I love going to Tropical Park. A GOB built that. General obligation bond built that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the ARST. It's wonderful. GOB. Yeah, Frost. GOB.
Mm-hmm. Zoo.
GOB. Zoo. GOB.
Yeah, everything.
The fire stations. You like having a fire station near you because when you're in trouble, like you have a medical emergency, they get there quicker. And if there's a fire, they get there quicker. Those fire stations, GOB. We use those special funding mechanisms to actually do things that we can't do in the normal course of business. So the key for us is, first, finding out how we're going to fund the operation and maintenance. So a lot of people start how you build it. I don't start with how you build it. I start with how you maintain it.
It's the harder end of the equation.
That's the harder end. Yeah. That's the end that goes on forever. Yeah. How do you maintain it? That's going to be the question. How we maintain it. Once we get that part, and us changing the TIF and all those things, that's part of that. Once we get to that part, then we start with, okay, then we have that larger conversation. How do we partner with the federal government and the state government to actually get this done? Things like the infrastructure program and New Starts and all these other things that came from the federal government, the Biden administration, is very helpful for us because it allows us to defer cost from basically every cost in transportation. If it ain't coming from CITT, it's coming from general fund.
Right.
So if we can defer money that we'd have to spend in the general fund or accumulate more money in the general fund from anything, we can move it towards transportation and it helps with us. But that's going to be the conversation about how we actually piece that together. And I think that the mistake that we made as a public is being afraid of that conversation. I think the elected officials have been afraid of that conversation. I'm not.
Kick it down the road, right? Kick it down the road.
Listen, if you can hear me, if you can see me, it's not going to be free.
Right.
It's going to cost us something. But it's costing you something right now. You're not used to what it's costing you because you become numb to the pain. It's like if I pinched you right here, for the first second it might hurt. But afterwards, it would just feel like what was normal. Well, you think it's normal that you sit in traffic for 2 hours. You normalize that into your gas payments, like when you fill up your car. You just leave a little bit earlier now, or a lot earlier now, because you're anticipating the 826 being slammed at 103rd Street. You're anticipating Golden Glades, getting through that turnpike connection right there. You're anticipating. You're going to leave earlier. Well, that earlier time translates into something.
Right.
That added gas, you're paying it now.
It's an opportunity cost, right? Yeah. That's what people don't understand. Yeah.
So it's people have been afraid of those conversations. I'm not afraid of that conversation. It's going to cost us money. We want to minimize how much it's going to cost us. We want to figure out how to pay it over time. But we understand that the greatness of Miami-Dade County was other people doing the things that we're called upon to do now. Investing in what the future would look like, even if they weren't going to be here for it. You know, I fully expect that in my second term, I'm just starting my second term, we'll get to a point where we can break ground on the North Corridor. I'm not going to finish the North Corridor as a commissioner. I will not. Time will not allow me to do that. I'm not concentrating on finishing, I'm concentrating on starting. Let's start. So right now, the ballot initiative, we started the conversation. And so now we keep moving. We keep moving because ultimately, a good way to really demonstrate that you will never do anything is to never start it. We're starting now. And that's not just me, that's us as a community.
On that point, so we've talked about how we desperately need not only local government, but the state government and our federal partners to be part of the solution. But it goes beyond that, to your point of community, public, private,
yes,
and nonprofit, and the public, right? It's really the 4 Ps.
Yes.
So Miami-Dade College, as one of the largest institutions and one of the most critical in our community, not only because of the academics, but you're an enormous employer. You have campuses throughout the county, so you're in a unique position to really be a part of this conversation and the solution. So how do you foresee the Miami-Dade College kind of supporting these efforts moving forward? Whether it's more funding, whether it's trying to get people out of cars and into transit. From your perspective, what's the college's role?
Yeah. So to Chairman Gilbert's point, we need to start the conversation. So Miami-Dade College is scattered throughout the community from Homestead to the North Campus. We even have a higher education partnership right in the city of Miami Gardens at the Betty T. Ferguson Complex.
How many campuses do you have now? I mean,
we have 8 campuses with many outreach centers. We have the Carapemic Center in Liberty City. We have the Gibson Center right here in Coconut Grove. And Betty T in collaboration with Florida Memorial University and St. Thomas University. So I think it's, having the wherewithal to have those conversations. We have convening ability, and we're open as an institution to offer any of our campuses to begin those conversations, to engage our community, not only our students, faculty, and staff, with the interest in transit. I personally take it upon myself every CITT board meeting to ensure that there are students of different interests and interest in the future of transit to join me to learn about the experience. And when we get back on campus, the conversation continues. I have an invite to continue sharing with the college community about what's happening in transit. Matter of fact, last week, President Pumariega, she was like, "You're on the CITT, I wish when I drive up on US 1, all the lights would sync." Yeah. And it's preemptive, and you get green. And
we know the county's working on that, right? Advanced traffic management.
And magically, we just, magically delicious. Yeah, no, magically, we just approved the RFP. We're hired Horsepower, who's actually a local company. Because they had planned on doing this synchronization thing, and it was just going really slow, and it was tedious. Yeah. We went and got a local company who knows they're going to do this, and so with some hard deadlines. Yeah. This is what it needs to happen, because even with the number of cars, it would be helpful if you didn't have to stop at every light. It'd be helpful.
Help is on the way. You could tell her.
Yeah, that's on the way.
Or President Leiber, Dr. Leiber at the medical campus, who gave me a call a couple of days ago, and he's like, the lights next to the medical campus, and such. And so, we're open as an institution to convene and to engage our community, and to also reach out to, all of our partners in the game to advance that conversation and to have those difficult, conversation. I believe too, we do need to, you have to get started. That's how you advance. And it's like a relay. My generation has to get it from this point to that point, and then we hand it off to the next to continue improving.
And you represent the future of this community. I mean, the students are the future, and they need to be engaged. And I love what you do, and it's in your title, right? Engagement. And I have to say that your students are engaged. They actually reached out to me to participate in some kind of voting exercise, from a transportation perspective. So I really do think that the college has an opportunity and an obligation, and I know a desire to be a leader on this. So thank you. Appreciate it.
And the college has also hosted, co-motion.
Yes.
And other transit-related, summits, and definitely open to partnering on convening, whether it's at the Wolfson campus or the North, or Homestead, or even at Doral. We definitely have an interest. The college community and the higher education community, I see them in transit, whether it's connecting from Metro to the government center, going to Tri-Rail at the Metro Rail transfer point into Broward. I have a student that commutes from Boca to come all the way downtown to our Fashion Institute, because we have an excellent program there. Transit is going nowhere. We just need to ensure that it gets better.
Well, gentlemen, we have just a few seconds left in our program. Any parting thoughts you want to share that we haven't really touched on?
And I just thank you all for doing this. It helps with the conversation. So I don't know who sees this, but it'll be someone who didn't hear it before. So we'll at least reach 1 or 2 or 3 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 more people. We have to do this. Sometimes we talk about things as though it's optional. Look, if you have leadership that believes that this is optional, they're not actually leading. That they're janitors for the status quo. And I don't believe that to be my purpose. I don't believe it to be our purpose. I think our purpose should be to create a place that's sustainable, that's good for our kids. That is the whole purpose of our service, the purpose of my service. I think Rapid Mass Transit helps us do that in a number of ways, and so I'm going to push forward.
Excellent. We'll be there behind you to support you, sir. And
thank you very much.
Miguel, any parting thoughts?
Just as Chairman Gilbert said, I think, we are a world-class city, and transit, is right up there in any world-class city, and the work that we are doing and where we're heading is, I believe, in the right direction.
Well, listen, gentlemen, thank you, A, for being on the program, but more importantly for what you do, for your service to the community in the public and the nonprofit sectors. Your leadership has been stellar, and I look forward to continuing to work with you and making things happen. Member Murphy, thank you for everything you do on behalf of the CITT. We couldn't do it without you, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
And folks, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Mobility Matters. You can join us here every other Thursday from 9 to 10 a.m. As you can see, we bring amazing guests and have wonderful discussions, not just about mobility and transportation, but about all the issues that are impacted by or impact transportation and mobility. We talked about them today: economic development, land use, affordable housing, you name it. So keep watching. We have some good stuff coming up. That's all we have for today. We do want to thank our partners here at Miami's Community Newspapers for continuing to host and produce this program. Once again, if you want to learn more about us, if you want to apply to become a member of the CITT, we do have several vacancies. Please visit our website, miamidade.gov/CITT.